The possible extraterrestrial origins of Yahweh. A case for interstellar influence on ancient religion. The Hebrew God. Yahweh stands at the heart of one of the most influential monotheistic traditions in history, yet his origins remain shrouded in mystery. As scholars delve deeper into ancient texts, archaeological discoveries, and comparative mythology, intriguing parallels emerge between Yahweh and the gods of ancient Sumer, particularly the Anunnaki. Furthermore, descriptions of Yahweh's actions and appearances in the Hebrew Bible evoke images that some interpret as evidence of advanced technology, perhaps extraterrestrial in origin. Could the God of the Israelites have roots in a cosmic narrative that spans civilizations and worlds? The Sumerian connection. Long before the rise of Israel, the Sumerians thrived in Mesopotamia, crafting one of humanity's first complex civilizations. Their pantheon of gods, led by Anu, the sky god, shares intriguing similarities with later portrayals of Yahweh. Anu and his divine council, the Anunnaki, were said to have descended from the heavens, governing humanity and granting knowledge. This imagery bears resemblance to Yahweh as described in early Hebrew texts, where he operates from the heavens and leads a divine assembly. Psalm 82. The Epic of Gilgamesh, a cornerstone of Sumerian mythology, recounts a flood narrative eerily similar to the biblical story of Noah. Both tales describe divine beings warning a chosen human of an impending deluge, offering blueprints for survival. This parallel suggests that the Hebrew account could be a retelling of Sumerian myths, raising the question of whether Yahweh's narrative is a reimagined version of older stories about extraterrestrial visitors. The Sumerian connection. Long before the rise of Israel, the Sumerians thrived in Mesopotamia, crafting one of humanity's first complex civilizations. Their pantheon of gods, led by Anu, the sky god, shares intriguing similarities with later portrayals of Yahweh. Anu and his divine council, the Anunnaki, were said to have descended from the heavens, governing humanity and granting knowledge. This imagery bears resemblance to Yahweh as described in early Hebrew texts, where he operates from the heavens and leads a divine assembly. Psalm 82. The Epic of Gilgamesh, a cornerstone of Sumerian mythology, recounts a flood narrative eerily similar to the biblical story of Noah. Both tales describe divine beings warning a chosen human of an impending deluge, offering blueprints for survival. This parallel suggests that the Hebrew account could be a retelling of Sumerian myths, raising the question of whether Yahweh's narrative is a reimagined version of older stories about extraterrestrial visitors. Yahweh's technological mystique. The Hebrew Bible contains numerous descriptions of Yahweh's presence that defy natural explanation. When Yahweh descends upon Mount Sinai in Exodus, the mountain is engulfed in smoke, fire, and the sound of trumpets. To ancient peoples, these phenomena signified divine power. To modern eyes, they could be interpreted as the arrival of advanced technology, perhaps a spacecraft. The Ark of the Covenant adds another layer to the mystery. This sacred artifact, meticulously described in Exodus, allegedly housed Yahweh's presence and was capable of unleashing lethal energy. Its construction specifications, gold plating, wooden core, and precise dimensions, have led some to speculate it was a device of extraterrestrial origin designed to generate or store immense power. If Yahweh was an extraterrestrial being, the Ark could represent technology shared with humans to establish divine authority. Ezekiel's vision, a UFO encounter. Among the most compelling biblical accounts often cited as evidence of extraterrestrial involvement is Ezekiel's vision. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet describes witnessing a wheel within a wheel, accompanied by creatures with a fiery appearance. To ancient readers, this was an awe-inspiring divine encounter. However, proponents of ancient astronaut theory argue that Ezekiel may have been describing an advanced spacecraft, complete with propulsion systems and luminescent features. This interpretation aligns with similar depictions in Sumerian art, where cylinder seals show beings descending from the heavens in what appear to be vehicles. Could Ezekiel have been witnessing a similar phenomenon reinterpreted through his cultural and religious lens? the Watchers and the Anunnaki. The apocryphal Book of Enoch introduces the Watchers, celestial beings who descended to Earth and interacted with humans. These entities taught humanity arts, sciences, and warfare, mirroring the Sumerian narrative of the Anunnaki granting knowledge to humans. Both traditions describe these beings as intermediaries between the heavens and earth, raising the possibility that they represent the same extraterrestrial influence, adapted to different cultural contexts. The Watchers' defiance of divine order, leading to their punishment, parallels the rebellious acts of certain Anunnaki figures in Sumerian lore. This overlap suggests a shared origin, or at least a common memory of beings whose actions shaped early human civilizations. Yahweh in the context of ancient pantheons. Yahweh's early characterization as a storm and war deity closely resembles regional gods like Baal and the Sumerian Enlil. Enlil, like Yahweh, was associated with the heavens, wielded control over natural forces, and was depicted as a powerful, sometimes wrathful deity. Over time, Yahweh evolved into a monotheistic god, but traces of his earlier identity linger in the Bible, such as his fierce protection of Israel and direct involvement in human affairs. This transformation from a localized deity to the universal god of monotheism might reflect a cultural shift influenced by ancient memories of extraterrestrial beings. If Yahweh were originally one among many visitors like the Anunnaki, his ascension to the singular deity could signify a reinterpretation of extraterrestrial influence as a unified divine narrative. Archaeological and mythological clues. Artifacts from Sumerian culture further bolster the argument for extraterrestrial connections. Cylinder seals depict humanoid figures interacting with humans, often accompanied by what appear to be advanced devices or vehicles. Similarly, biblical descriptions of angels, with their radiant appearance and otherworldly power, align with Sumerian depictions of the Anunnaki. Moreover, the biblical notion of a divine council, e.g., Psalm 82, echoes the Sumerian assembly of gods. This structural similarity points to a shared mythological framework, potentially originating from actual encounters with beings perceived as divine. Skeptical perspectives. Mainstream scholars caution against overinterpretation. They argue that the similarities between Yahweh and Sumerian gods stem from cultural diffusion rather than extraterrestrial encounters. Yahweh's evolution, they contend, reflects the unique spiritual and historical context of the Israelites, who adapted existing myths to craft a distinct monotheistic tradition. Additionally, biblical descriptions of Yahweh's appearances, fire, smoke, thunder, are often interpreted as symbolic language meant to convey awe rather than literal accounts of technology. Ezekiel's vision, for instance, might be a vivid metaphor rather than an eyewitness report. Descriptions of Yahweh's interactions with humanity often include phenomena that resemble advanced technology. 1. Mount Sinai event. In Exodus, Yahweh descends on Mount Sinai amidst fire, smoke, and the sound of trumpets. To ancient peoples, this might signify divine power, but to modern theorists, it could describe the arrival of a spacecraft. The trumpets might represent mechanical sounds, and the smoke and fire could be the exhaust of a propulsion system. 2. The pillar of cloud and fire. During the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, Yahweh guides them as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Exodus 13:21 through 22. This could be interpreted as a form of advanced navigation or surveillance technology, perhaps a hovering craft or drone-like device. 3. The Ark of the Covenant. The Ark is described as a sacred object containing Yahweh's presence. Its ability to emit deadly energy and its precise construction instructions, gold plating, specific dimensions, have led some to theorize that it was an advanced energy device, potentially extraterrestrial in origin. Could Yahweh have provided this technology to ensure his authority among the Israelites? 4th, manna from heaven. In the wilderness, the Israelites are sustained by manna, described as bread miraculously provided by Yahweh. Some theorists suggest this could be interpreted as synthetic food production or an advanced means of sustaining human life during extended periods of isolation, technology far beyond ancient understanding. Ezekiel's vision and other encounters. The book of Ezekiel offers one of the most compelling examples of potential extraterrestrial contact in religious texts. Ezekiel describes a wheel within a wheel and beings with a fiery appearance, accompanied by a powerful sound. Ancient astronaut theorists interpret this as a detailed account of a spacecraft and its occupants. Moreover, other biblical figures, such as Moses and Elijah, have encounters that could be interpreted as interactions with advanced beings or technology. Moses' radiant face after meeting Yahweh, Exodus 34:29-35, might suggest exposure to radiation or advanced energy sources, while Elijah's ascent to heaven in a chariot of fire, 2 Kings 2:11, evokes imagery of a technological vehicle. The Watchers, Nephilim, and Anunnaki. The apocryphal Book of Enoch describes the Watchers, celestial beings who descended to earth, taught humanity forbidden knowledge, and interbred with humans, creating a race of giants called the Nephilim. This narrative aligns with the Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki, who also descended from the heavens and influenced humanity. Both traditions speak of beings who appear as intermediaries between humans and the divine, offering knowledge or power at a cost. The Nephilim's hybrid nature and the Watchers' rebellion suggest the possibility of extraterrestrial experimentation, with Yahweh acting as a figure who sought to correct or punish these interferences. Yahweh's role in a cosmic context. Yahweh's evolution from a storm and war deity into the singular God of Israel mirrors the structure of Sumerian and other ancient pantheons, where one deity often takes precedence. Early biblical texts, such as Psalm 82, describe Yahweh presiding over a divine council, similar to the Sumerian assembly of gods. Over time, Yahweh becomes the sole deity, absorbing attributes of earlier gods and possibly consolidating memories of multiple extraterrestrial influences into a singular figure. Archaeological evidence and mythological clues. Artifacts and ancient sites provide further intriguing clues. Sumerian cylinder seals. These artifacts depict humanoid figures, often larger than humans, interacting with people and operating what appear to be advanced devices or vehicles. Pyramids and ziggurats. The construction of massive structures like ziggurats in Mesopotamia and pyramids in Egypt raises questions about the knowledge and technology available to ancient civilizations. Some theorists propose that these structures were inspired by extraterrestrial beings who demonstrated advanced engineering techniques. Miracles as advanced technology. Several biblical miracles attributed to Yahweh can be reinterpreted as advanced technology or scientific manipulation. Parting of the Red Sea, the splitting of the waters, Exodus 14:21-22, could represent the use of a force field or advanced gravitational technology. Stopping the sun. In the book of Joshua, Yahweh halts the sun and moon in the sky, Joshua 10:12-13. This might be interpreted as a manipulation of time or perception through advanced methods beyond human comprehension. A cosmic legacy. Whether Yahweh was an extraterrestrial entity, a divine being, or a construct of human imagination, his story invites us to reconsider humanity's relationship with the cosmos. The parallels between Yahweh and Sumerian deities, the descriptions of advanced phenomena in the Bible, and the enduring mysteries of ancient civilization suggest that our ancestors may have experienced something extraordinary, whether divine or extraterrestrial. As we continue to explore the mysteries of our past, the possibility of Yahweh's extraterrestrial origin serves as a reminder of how much we have yet to understand about the universe and our place within it. If Yahweh was a visitor from beyond the stars, his influence not only shaped the course of human history, but also connected us to a larger cosmic story that remains hidden, waiting to be uncovered. Exodus 23. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The Secrets of Nag Hammadi, a journey into the forbidden scriptures. In December 1945, deep in the Egyptian desert near the town of Nag Hammadi, a farmer named Muhammad Ali al-Saman made an extraordinary discovery. While digging for fertilizer, he unearthed a sealed jar. Inside was not treasure in the conventional sense, but something far more profound. A collection of 13 leather-bound books containing over 50 ancient texts. These writings, now known as the Nag Hammadi Library, would go on to shake the foundations of biblical scholarship and offer a radically different perspective on the origins of Christianity, the nature of God, and humanity's place in the universe. The texts, written in Coptic, are believed to be translations of even older Greek manuscripts and are dated to the 4th century CE. The content of these scriptures, however, suggests roots stretching back to the early centuries of Christianity, possibly as far back as the 1st and 2nd centuries CE. These writings represent the thought and theology of a group of Christians known as the Gnostics, a sect often branded as heretical by the early church. What makes these texts so controversial and captivating is their dramatic reinterpretation of familiar biblical themes, especially their depiction of Yahweh, the nature of Christ, and the creation of the universe. The origins of the Nag Hammadi Library. The Nag Hammadi texts were likely hidden during a time of persecution against unorthodox Christian groups. By the 4th century CE, the Roman Emperor Constantine had embraced Christianity, and the Nicene Creed, 325 CE, formalized orthodoxy, condemning alternative views as heretical. Gnosticism, with its mystical and often subversive interpretations, was one such target. Gnostics derived their name from the Greek word gnosis, meaning knowledge. But this wasn't just intellectual knowledge, it was a deeply personal spiritual enlightenment, a direct transformative experience of the divine. The church, however, emphasized faith and obedience to established doctrine over personal revelation. Faced with suppression, a group of Gnostics likely decided to bury these texts to preserve their teachings for future generations. Hidden for centuries, they remained untouched until that fateful day in 1945. What do the Nag Hammadi texts reveal? At the heart of the Nag Hammadi Library is a radical reinterpretation of creation and the divine, particularly through texts like the Apocryphon of John, the Gospel of Thomas, and the Gospel of Truth. These writings often portray Yahweh, the God of the Hebrew Bible, not as the ultimate source of goodness, but as a flawed, arrogant being. The Apocryphon of John, a cosmic drama. The Apocryphon of John, also called the Secret Book of John, recounts a creation myth unlike anything in traditional Judeo-Christian teachings. In this text, the ultimate divine source is a transcendent being known as the monad, an infinite and unknowable presence that emanates pure light and truth. From the monad emerges a series of divine entities or aeons, including Sophia, whose name means wisdom. However, Sophia acts independently and creates a being without the consent of the monad. This being, Yaldabaoth, is arrogant and ignorant yet powerful. Yaldabaoth proclaims himself to be the only God, creating the material world and imprisoning human souls within physical bodies. Gnostics identified Yaldabaoth with the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, portraying him as a tyrannical and jealous deity who seeks to keep humanity enslaved through ignorance. The role of Christ. In this narrative, Christ is not the son of Yaldabaoth, but a messenger sent by the true divine source to awaken humanity to its spiritual potential. Christ's mission is to reveal the truth about Yaldabaoth's deception and to guide human souls back to the monad. This version of Christ is more of a spiritual liberator than a savior in the traditional sense. Salvation, according to Gnosticism, comes not through faith in Christ's death and resurrection, but through attaining gnosis, inner knowledge of one's divine origin. Other notable texts. The Gospel of Thomas. Unlike the canonical Gospels, the Gospel of Thomas is a collection of 114 sayings attributed to Jesus. Many of these sayings emphasize self-discovery and spiritual awakening. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. This gospel lacks a narrative structure and makes no mention of Christ's crucifixion or resurrection, focusing instead on the mystical teachings of Jesus. The Gospel of Philip. This text challenges orthodox interpretations of Christ's role, the sacraments, and even the nature of Mary Magdalene. It suggests that Mary Magdalene had a special relationship with Jesus, describing her as his companion and hinting at her prominence among his followers. Why do the Nag Hammadi texts matter? The Nag Hammadi Library offers a glimpse into a rich and diverse early Christian world, one far more complex than the uniformity promoted by the later church. These texts challenge the notion that there was a single, unified understanding of Jesus and his teachings in the early centuries of Christianity. For the Gnostics, the spiritual journey was deeply personal, with salvation lying in the awakening of divine light within each individual. This stood in stark contrast to the hierarchical and dogmatic approach of the institutional church, which emphasized adherence to external authority and doctrine. The portrayal of Yahweh as a flawed, lesser deity also forces readers to question assumptions about the Bible's portrayal of God. The Gnostics didn't outright reject the Hebrew scriptures. They reinterpreted them, casting Yahweh as a figure whose actions revealed arrogance rather than divine perfection. The legacy of Nag Hammadi. The discovery of the Nag Hammadi Library has reignited interest in alternative Christianities and sparked debates about the nature of early Christian belief. Scholars, theologians, and seekers continue to wrestle with the implications of these texts. Are the Gnostic scriptures simply heretical distortions, or do they preserve hidden truths suppressed by orthodoxy? Could they offer a missing piece of the puzzle in understanding Jesus' teachings and the spiritual quest of humanity? While the answers may remain elusive, the Nag Hammadi texts invite us to think deeply about the nature of divinity, the power of knowledge, and the eternal struggle between freedom and control. As these ancient words whisper across the millennia, they remind us that the search for truth is never straightforward, and that the journey itself may be the most profound revelation of all. Marduk and Amun-Ra, the forgotten rulers of Earth. Once in our timeline, long before the rise of modern religions, humanity looked to the heavens and whispered the names of gods who walked among them. In the lands of Mesopotamia and Egypt, two figures loomed larger than life: Marduk, the triumphant god of Babylon, and Amun-Ra, the shining deity of the Nile. Their stories are ancient, their power immense, and their influence perhaps still felt today. Who were these gods? Were they divine beings, extraterrestrial visitors, or symbols of human ambition? And could they be connected, two faces of the same entity? Let us journey through time to unravel their mysteries. The rise of Marduk. In ancient Babylon, the story of creation was a tale of chaos and triumph. At the center of it stood Marduk, a young god of immense power and ambition. The Enuma Elish, Babylon's sacred text, recounts how Marduk rose to prominence during a time of turmoil. The primordial dragon, Tiamat, had plunged the world into chaos, threatening to destroy all creation. None of the other gods dared to face her wrath, none except Marduk. He struck a deal with the divine assembly. If he defeated Tiamat, he would be granted supreme authority over all. With courage and cunning, Marduk fashioned a net to trap Tiamat and unleashed his mighty weapon, a thunderbolt, to slay her. From her divided body, he shaped the heavens and the earth, bringing order to the cosmos. His victory wasn't just a triumph over chaos. It was the beginning of a new age. As Babylon rose to power, so too did Marduk. Kings invoked his name to legitimize their rule, claiming his blessing in their pursuit of justice and law. The famous Code of Hammurabi, one of history's first written legal systems, was said to be inspired by Marduk himself. He became more than a god. He was the protector of civilization, the bringer of order, and the ruler of the earth. The majesty of Amun-Ra far to the west in the land of Egypt, another god rose to supreme power. Amun, once a local deity of Thebes, merged with Ra, the sun god, to become Amun-Ra, the king of the gods. His name meant the hidden one, yet his presence was everywhere, from the golden deserts to the life-giving waters of the Nile. Amun-Ra's influence grew during Egypt's Middle and New Kingdoms. Pharaohs, seen as his living representatives, built grand temples in his honor, the most magnificent being Karnak. Here, priests performed rituals to maintain the balance of Ma'at, the divine order that kept the world from descending into chaos. Unlike Marduk's dramatic rise through battle, Amun-Ra's power was rooted in creation and renewal. Each day, as the sun rose in the east, it was Amun-Ra's light that touched the world, breathing life into plants, animals, and humans alike. His essence was both visible and mysterious, connecting the tangible world to the divine. Two gods, one archetype. At first glance, Marduk and Amun-Ra seem worlds apart. One was a dragon-slaying warrior, the other a radiant creator. Yet their stories share remarkable similarities. Both were supreme rulers embodying the ideals of kingship and law. Both were seen as the ultimate protectors of order, fighting against chaos in their own ways. And both were deeply tied to celestial bodies, Marduk with the planet Jupiter, and Amun-Ra with the sun. Could these two gods be linked? Some historians believe that shared mythological themes might point to a common origin, a proto-religion predating both Mesopotamia and Egypt. Others, more speculative, suggest they were different cultural interpretations of the same entity, a divine being who revealed itself to humanity in different forms. And then there are the ancient astronaut theorists. They propose that gods like Marduk and Amun-Ra weren't mythical at all, but extraterrestrial visitors. These beings, they argue, brought advanced knowledge of governance, law, and celestial mechanics, guiding humanity's early civilizations. Were Marduk and Amun-Ra members of the same cosmic race, shaping the destiny of the ancient world? The struggle for power, both gods faced challenges to their authority. Marduk's rise wasn't without resistance. Other gods, jealous of his power, tested his resolve. Similarly, Amun-Ra's priests clashed with rival factions in Egypt, as competing deities like Aten briefly rose to prominence. These struggles echo a timeless theme, the battle between chaos and order. For Marduk, it was literal as he fought Tiamat. For Amun-Ra, it was symbolic as the sun god descended into the underworld each night to battle darkness, only to rise victorious each morning. Even today, this theme resonates. Humanity still seeks balance in a world often teetering on the edge of disorder, a legacy left by these ancient rulers. The god who became Jehovah. As civilizations evolved, so too did their gods. When monotheism emerged, could figures like Marduk and Amun-Ra have been absorbed into a singular divine concept? Consider the Jewish god Jehovah. Like Marduk, Jehovah is depicted as a creator who brings order to chaos, defeating Leviathan, a sea monster reminiscent of Tiamat. Like Amun-Ra, Jehovah is both hidden and omnipresent, the ultimate source of light and life. It's a provocative idea that these ancient deities, once worshipped under different names, merged into the monotheistic traditions we know today. Why it matters. Why should we care about gods like Marduk and Amun-Ra in the 21st century? Because their stories are our stories. They reflect humanity's quest for meaning, order, and connection to the cosmos. Whether they were divine beings, extraterrestrial visitors, or simply the product of human imagination, they shape the foundations of law, leadership, and spirituality. They remind us of our enduring struggle against chaos and our longing for balance and justice. And perhaps, just perhaps, they hint at something greater, a shared origin, a cosmic truth that transcends time and culture. The journey continues. The stories of Marduk and Amun-Ra are far from over. Their legacies live on in ancient texts, archaeological discoveries, and modern debates. For those curious to learn more, the Enuma Elish offers a window into Marduk's triumph, while the temples of Karnak and Luxor stand as monuments to Amun-Ra's enduring power. What do you think? Were Marduk and Amun-Ra divine beings, ancient aliens, or something else entirely? Could they be the same entity, guiding humanity across time? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep exploring these fascinating mysteries together. Throughout human history, the story of Jehovah has fascinated scholars, theologians, and seekers of truth. As the central deity of the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Jehovah is often portrayed as a singular, all-powerful God. However, a deeper dive into ancient history and comparative mythology reveals connections between Jehovah and earlier deities from Mesopotamian, Canaanite, and Egyptian traditions. This story explores these connections, traces the emergence of Jehovah's identity, and examines how Christianity may have intentionally distanced itself from these ancient roots. The origins of Jehovah. The name Jehovah originates from the Hebrew name YHWH, Yahweh, revealed in the Torah as the God of Israel. While Yahweh is a unique deity in Jewish tradition, scholars have noted that his story does not emerge in isolation. Instead, his characteristics and attributes appear to have evolved from or been influenced by older gods from surrounding cultures. One of the earliest mentions of Yahweh outside the Bible is in the Mesha Stele, 9th century BCE, where the Moabite king Mesha credits YHWH with aiding Israelite victories. However, Yahweh's earlier roots are murkier. Archaeological evidence from the region suggests Yahweh may have been part of the broader Canaanite pantheon before becoming a singular deity. Connections to older gods, Baal and El. In the Canaanite religion, El was the chief deity of the pantheon, and Baal, the storm god, was his son. Baal was known as a warrior god who controlled rain and fertility, a role that parallels certain depictions of Yahweh, such as his role in battles and as the provider of rain in the Bible. In fact, in some biblical texts, Yahweh's supremacy is asserted by directly opposing Baal worship, suggesting a rivalry that reflects cultural and religious competition. Marduk of Babylon. Marduk, the chief god of Babylon, is another intriguing parallel. Like Yahweh, Marduk was a national god elevated above a pantheon of other deities. In Babylonian mythology, Marduk defeats Tiamat, the primordial chaos dragon, to create the world. Similarly, Yahweh often depicted as a creator who imposes order on chaos, particularly in Genesis. The Babylonian exile of the Israelites, 6th century BCE, may have influenced Jewish theology, as the exiled community would have encountered Babylonian myths and adapted them to fit their monotheistic framework. Ra and Amun of Egypt. The Egyptian gods Ra, the sun god, and Amun, a creator god, also bear some resemblance to Yahweh's story of Moses, central to the Jewish tradition, is set in Egypt, where Yahweh demonstrates his power over the Egyptian gods through the plagues. This narrative can be seen as a theological assertion of Yahweh's superiority over the Egyptian pantheon, particularly Amun-Ra, who was considered the king of the gods. The enigmatic Anunnaki, Enlil, Anu, and Enki. The ancient Sumerians, who predate the Canaanites, worshipped a pantheon led by Anu, the sky god, Enlil, the god of air and authority, and Enki, the god of wisdom and water. Some scholars and alternative historians suggest that Yahweh shares characteristics with these deities. Enlil, known for his stern authority and role as a lawgiver, resembles the biblical depiction of Yahweh as a just and commanding figure. Enki, with his association with wisdom and creation, parallels Yahweh's role in the creation of humanity. The Sumerian flood myth, where Enlil floods the earth but Enki saves humanity, bears striking similarities to the biblical story of Noah. The connection between the Anunnaki and Yahweh is speculative but supported by shared motifs, including divine judgment, creation, and the flood. Some theories propose that the biblical narrative of Yahweh evolved from these earlier myths, filtered through the lens of monotheism. Christianity's suppression of ancient knowledge. When Christianity became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire in the 4th century CE, it sought to distance itself from pagan traditions. Early Christian leaders viewed the polytheistic religions of Rome, Greece, and the Near East as threats to their faith. Texts and practices associated with older gods were labeled heretical or demonic, and were often destroyed or reinterpreted. The Council of Nicaea, 325 CE, marked a turning point, as church leaders established an orthodox understanding of Christianity and sought to eliminate competing narratives. This suppression extended to Gnostic texts, which often included alternative cosmologies that echoed Sumerian, Babylonian, and Egyptian myths. Surviving traces in Christian rituals. Despite efforts to suppress pagan influences, some ancient practices persisted within Christianity, often reinterpreted to align with the new faith. Holy Communion. The Eucharist echoes ancient rituals involving bread and wine as offerings to gods like Osiris, Egypt, or Dionysus, Greece. Baptism. The Christian act of purification through water may trace its roots to older rites associated with Enki, the Sumerian god of water and wisdom. Festivals. Christian holidays like Easter and Christmas incorporate elements of older fertility and solar festivals, such as those honoring Tammuz, Mesopotamia, or Sol Invictus, Rome. Why was this knowledge suppressed? The suppression of ancient knowledge served both theological and political purposes. By severing ties to earlier traditions, Christianity established itself as a distinct and superior faith. This also helped consolidate power under the church, as alternative beliefs and practices were labeled heretical. Moreover, revealing connections between Yahweh and older gods might have undermined the monotheistic claim of a singular, unique deity. Acknowledging these connections could suggest that Yahweh, like other gods, evolved from earlier religious systems, a view that conflicted with the Church's doctrine of divine revelation. Conclusion. Jehovah in context. The story of Jehovah is both unique and deeply interconnected with the broader tapestry of human spirituality. While the monotheistic traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam present Yahweh as a singular, eternal God, historical evidence suggests that his identity was shaped by centuries of cultural exchange and adaptation. By exploring these connections, we gain a deeper understanding of how religious ideas evolve and how humanity's search for meaning has been shaped by the stories of gods who preceded Jehovah. Far from diminishing Yahweh's significance, this perspective enriches our appreciation of the shared heritage that unites ancient and modern faiths. Exodus 3:14, God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. The hidden books and the complex legacy of Yahweh. The Bible, as we know it, represents centuries of careful selection, theological debate, and cultural shaping. Yet its composition leaves behind a trail of texts excluded from the canon, texts that offer a deeper, often more complex view of Yahweh, the God of the Abrahamic faiths. These writings, along with historical and scientific investigations, invite us to reconsider what we know about the divine and how humanity has sought to understand its place in the cosmos. The Lost Texts, a different Yahweh. The Bible's canon was established over several centuries by early Jewish and Christian communities. However, many texts once circulated widely, but were later excluded for theological, political, or practical reasons. Among these are the Book of Enoch, the Gospel of Thomas, and the Apocalypse of Abraham. These writings, while diverse in style and content, share a common theme. They reveal aspects of Yahweh and spirituality that challenge the image presented in the canonical texts. The Book of Enoch, revered in some early Jewish sects, presents Yahweh as a celestial ruler, commanding legions of angels in battles against cosmic rebels. This Yahweh is less focused on moral commandments and more concerned with maintaining order in the divine realm. The text also introduces the Watchers, fallen angels who corrupt humanity. Their defiance and subsequent punishment mirror ancient mythological struggles between order and chaos. In the Apocalypse of Abraham, Yahweh is depicted as a god deeply engaged in a cosmic battle against evil forces, a portrayal reminiscent of Zoroastrian dualism. This text aligns Yahweh with the archetype of a divine warrior, a protector of justice, but one enmeshed in eternal conflict. The Gospel of Thomas, a collection of sayings attributed to Jesus, offers a more mystical perspective. It emphasizes inner spiritual enlightenment over external worship, suggesting a Yahweh who resides not in the heavens but within the human soul. This text diverges from the traditional image of Yahweh as a patriarchal figure and instead suggests a divine presence intimately connected to personal spiritual growth. These texts, while outside the canon, provide glimpses into the varied ways Yahweh was understood by ancient communities. They remind us that the image of God has always been shaped by human culture, geography, and history. Connections to ancient gods. To understand Yahweh's evolution, it is essential to examine his connections to older deities of the ancient Near East. Scholars widely agree that the early Israelites emerged within the Canaanite cultural sphere. In this region, the pantheon was dominated by El, the supreme god, and Baal, the storm god. Archaeological evidence, such as inscriptions and ancient temples, suggests that Yahweh may have originally been worshipped as a lesser deity, or even as a regional manifestation of El. In Canaanite mythology, El was depicted as a wise, fatherly figure presiding over a divine council. Early Israelite texts, such as Deuteronomy 32:8-9, reflect this idea. Here, Yahweh is described as receiving Israel as his portion from El, suggesting that he was once part of a broader pantheon. Over time, Yahweh's image expanded, absorbing characteristics of both El and Baal. For example, the storm imagery associated with Yahweh in texts like Psalm 29 closely parallels descriptions of Baal as a bringer of rain and fertility. This syncretism was not unusual in the ancient world. As communities migrated, conquered, or merged, their gods often adapted to new circumstances, taking on roles or traits from other deities. Yahweh's transition from a regional deity to the sole God of Israel mirrors a broader shift in human religious thought from polytheism to monotheism, Christianity's rise and the politics of faith. The evolution of Yahweh's image took a decisive turn with the rise of Christianity. By the 4th century CE, this once persecuted sect had gained imperial favor, largely through the efforts of Constantine the Great. Constantine's conversion to Christianity was not purely spiritual. It was also a calculated move to unify his empire under a single, cohesive ideology. The First Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, convened under Constantine's authority, marked a turning point in the history of Christianity. This council aimed to resolve theological disputes and establish a unified doctrine. Decisions made at Nicaea and subsequent councils also determined which texts would form the New Testament, cementing the image of Yahweh as the Father of Jesus and the singular God of monotheism. However, the process of canonization excluded numerous writings. Many of these alternative texts, like the Gospel of Mary or the Gospel of Judas, presented perspectives that diverged from the official narrative. The exclusion of such texts was not merely theological, but also political. A unified, consistent scripture was easier to propagate and control, serving the needs of an empire that sought stability through religious conformity. As Christianity became the dominant force in the Roman world, the image of Yahweh solidified into that of a moral lawgiver, a figure whose authority underpinned the social and political order. This transformation highlights the ways in which religion has been shaped by and has shaped power structures throughout history. Proof of Yahweh's existence and faith in science. The question of whether Yahweh exists as described in religious texts is one of the most enduring mysteries of human thought. Historically, there is no direct archaeological evidence confirming Yahweh's existence. What we do have are artifacts such as the Mesha Stele and inscriptions from ancient Israel, which mention Yahweh and his worshippers. These findings affirm that Yahweh was venerated as a central deity in the ancient Near East. From a scientific perspective, some have attempted to explore the possibility of a divine creator. For instance, the fine-tuning of the universe, where constants like gravity and the speed of light appear precisely calibrated to support life, has led some physicists and mathematicians to consider the possibility of an intelligent designer. Theoretical physicist Michio Kaku has even suggested that the laws of physics might imply a mind behind the universe. Quantum mechanics adds another layer to the discussion. Phenomena like entanglement and wave-particle duality challenge our understanding of reality, hinting at dimensions beyond our perception. While these ideas do not prove the existence of Yahweh or any deity, they resonate with spiritual concepts of interconnectedness and unseen forces. Additionally, studies in neuroscience and psychology have revealed the profound effects of prayer, meditation, and religious experiences on the human brain. These practices can alter brain activity, creating states of peace, transcendence, and connection. While these effects are often attributed to psychological or physiological processes, they also raise questions about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the divine. A multifaceted legacy, Yahweh's story is one of transformation. From his origins as a regional deity in the ancient Near East to his role as the monotheistic God of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Yahweh reflects humanity's evolving understanding of the divine. The texts excluded from the Bible, the connections to older gods, and the rise of Christianity all reveal a dynamic and complex legacy. Even in the modern age, the search for Yahweh continues. Whether through scientific inquiry, historical analysis, or personal faith, humanity remains captivated by the idea of a higher power. The story of Yahweh is ultimately a story about us, our fears, our hopes, and our unending quest to understand the mysteries of existence. In Psalm 74, 13-14, "It was you who split open the sea by your power. You broke the heads of the monster in the waters. It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert." The sun sinks below the horizon, painting the waters a deep crimson, and for a moment, it feels as if the ancient seas might stir with secrets long buried. Beneath the shimmering waves lies a tale that has captivated scholars, theologians, and dreamers for millennia. The tale of Leviathan. This monstrous, awe-inspiring creature, mentioned several times in the Bible, has become a symbol of chaos, power, and divine mystery. But what is Leviathan, and why did God create such a formidable being? Prepare to dive into the depths of scripture, mythology, and speculation as we unravel the threads of Leviathan's story, a narrative that might reach beyond the confines of Earth itself. Leviathan, the biblical giant. The Leviathan is first and foremost a creature of biblical legend, introduced to us in texts like Job, Psalms, and Isaiah. In Job 41, God speaks directly of Leviathan, a creature so terrifying and mighty that no human could hope to defeat it. God's description reads almost like a boast. "Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down its tongue with a rope? Who dares open the doors of its mouth, ringed about with fearsome teeth? Its back has rows of shields, tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between." Here, Leviathan is depicted as a creature of immense strength and invulnerability. It is more than an animal. It is a force of nature, embodying chaos and raw power. The Psalms add another layer to this imagery, describing Leviathan as a creature subdued by God's might. "You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You gave it as food to the creatures of the desert." Psalm 74:14. In Isaiah 27:1, Leviathan appears again, this time as a sea serpent, an embodiment of evil destined to be destroyed by God. "In that day the Lord will punish with his sword, his fierce, great, and powerful sword. Leviathan the gliding serpent, Leviathan the coiling serpent. He will slay the monster of the sea. Why did God create Leviathan? Why would God, the creator of order and harmony, give life to such a terrifying being? To understand this, we must view Leviathan through the lens of its symbolic significance. Leviathan represents chaos, the untamed forces of the world that exist beyond human control. In creating Leviathan, God demonstrates his dominion over all things, even the most chaotic and fearsome entities. God's dialogue in Job underscores this point. Leviathan's invincibility serves as a humbling reminder to Job and to humanity of their place in the divine order. Through Leviathan, God illustrates his unparalleled power and wisdom, a theme echoed throughout Scripture. Some scholars also suggest that Leviathan's creation is tied to its ultimate destruction. Its defeat symbolizes the triumph of order over chaos, good over evil. In this sense, Leviathan's existence is a necessary counterpart to God's overarching plan for the world. Other monsters and strange creatures in the Bible, Leviathan is not the only enigmatic being in biblical texts. Other creatures add layers of mystery and intrigue to Scripture. Behemoth. Described in Job 40, Behemoth is the counterpart to Leviathan, a land creature of unparalleled strength. The text depicts it as grazing on grass like an ox, yet possessing bones like bronze and limbs like iron. Its enormous size and strength make it untouchable by human hands. Some suggest Behemoth might represent a hippopotamus or an elephant, but its poetic description elevates it to a creature of myth, a symbol of stability and terrestrial might. Rahab. In passages like Isaiah 51:9 and Psalm 89:10, Rahab emerges as a sea monster synonymous with chaos. Not to be confused with the historical figure of Jericho, Rahab symbolizes defiance against God's order. The texts speak of God shattering Rahab as a display of his power over the forces of disorder. In ancient lore, Rahab's defeat serves as a testament to divine supremacy, much like the subjugation of Leviathan. The four beasts. In Daniel 7, a vivid prophetic vision reveals four beasts rising from the sea, each more bizarre than the last. The first, a lion with eagle's wings, represents ferocity and speed. The second, a bear, is powerful and devours its prey. The third, a leopard with four wings and four heads, symbolizes cunning and dominance. The fourth beast, indescribably terrifying, crushes everything in its path. These creatures symbolize earthly empires, their rise and fall under God's sovereignty. The serpent. From the cunning deceiver in Genesis 3 to the apocalyptic dragon in Revelation 12:9, the serpent's role spans the entirety of the Bible. In Eden, it tempts humanity into sin. In Revelation, it becomes a dragon waging war against heaven. The serpent's transformation from tempter to cosmic adversary mirrors humanity's ongoing struggle with evil and underscores the ultimate victory of divine justice. Ancient roots and possible extraterrestrial links. The Leviathan story may not be unique to the Bible. Many ancient cultures speak of chaotic sea monsters that bear striking similarities to this biblical giant. Among them are Tiamat. In Mesopotamian mythology, Tiamat is a primordial sea dragon representing chaos and disorder. She is slain by the god Marduk, who splits her body to create the heavens and the earth. The parallels between Tiamat and Leviathan are striking. Both symbolize unbridled chaos subdued by divine power. The Greek Hydra. This multi-headed serpent, defeated by Hercules in Greek mythology, shares similarities with Leviathan's portrayal as a nearly invincible creature. Each time a head is cut off, the Hydra grows two more, embodying the persistence of chaos. Jormungandr. In Norse mythology, Jormungandr is the world serpent that encircles Midgard. Its inevitable battle with Thor during Ragnarok reflects themes of destruction and renewal, echoing the biblical Leviathan's eventual defeat. Some theorists suggest these shared myths are not mere coincidence, but rather evidence of a deeper, possibly extraterrestrial origin. Could the Leviathan and its counterparts represent ancient encounters with advanced technology or beings beyond Earth? Consider the fiery breath and impenetrable armor of Leviathan described in Job. These traits could be interpreted as descriptions of a mechanical or bioengineered entity, a being so advanced it was perceived as divine or monstrous by ancient humans. Others point to the global prevalence of flood myths and sea monsters as evidence of shared human experiences, perhaps shaped by encounters with unknown phenomena. Were these creatures the result of humanity attempting to describe incomprehensible technologies such as submarines, ships, or even alien crafts? Leviathan's portrayal as a being beyond human control aligns with how ancient cultures might interpret encounters with entities far superior in power and knowledge. Furthermore, the recurring theme of divine beings battling chaos, whether it's Marduk slaying Tiamat or God conquering Leviathan, could hint at an overarching cosmic narrative. Some suggest these stories reflect not just terrestrial struggles, but interstellar ones, with humanity as the chroniclers of battles waged between higher powers. The enduring mystery Leviathan story continues to stir the imagination, beckoning us to confront questions that stretch the limits of human understanding. What does this creature truly represent? Was it a literal beast that roamed the ancient seas, a symbolic embodiment of chaos, or something far more enigmatic, a remnant of forgotten knowledge or otherworldly encounters? Why does the concept of Leviathan resonate across cultures and eras? Is it because chaos, both feared and revered, is an eternal part of the human experience? Or could it be that Leviathan's legend carries whispers of encounters with advanced beings or technologies beyond comprehension, preserved in allegory and myth? And then there are deeper, more personal questions. If Leviathan represents chaos, what does its eventual defeat signify? Does it reassure us that no matter how overwhelming the forces of disorder may seem, there exists a power capable of restoring balance? Or does it challenge us to seek out the Leviathans in our own lives, the forces we cannot control, yet must learn to face with humility and courage? Perhaps the true mystery of Leviathan lies not in the creature itself, but in its ability to inspire awe and curiosity. It urges us to look beyond the surface, to explore the depths of scripture, history, and the cosmos in search of answers. And yet, like the shifting seas that conceal its legend, the answers may elude us, leaving us with even greater questions. In the end, Leviathan serves as a reminder of the vastness of creation and the enduring allure of the unknown. It challenges us to embrace the mysteries of existence, to see the world not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a story to be lived, with each of us playing a part in uncovering its meaning. The tale of Leviathan doesn't end here. It lingers in the depths, waiting for the next seeker brave enough to peer into the abyss and ask, what lies beneath? The Anunnaki, humanity's forgotten past and star-bound future. Imagine an age when humanity walked alongside gods, not as equals, but as their creation, their laborers. These gods, known as the Anunnaki, descended from the heavens, wielding power and knowledge far beyond human comprehension. Ancient Sumerian texts claim they shaped our civilizations, raised our cities, and then vanished, leaving behind cryptic monuments and unanswered questions. From the sands of Egypt to the ruins of Mars, evidence points to a forgotten chapter of our history. As humanity steps into the stars, are we on the brink of rediscovering our cosmic origins? The story of the Anunnaki begins with Nibiru, often called the planet of the crossing. This enigmatic world, described in Sumerian texts like the Enuma Elish, is believed to have an elongated orbit that periodically brings it close to Earth. Ancient records suggest that Nibiru was once a thriving planet, but faced an environmental catastrophe, possibly the depletion of its atmosphere. The Anunnaki, the advanced inhabitants of this world, sought a solution, and Earth became central to their plans. Anu, the sovereign of the Anunnaki. Anu, the highest deity in the Sumerian pantheon, is depicted as a distant yet omnipotent figure. He is not directly involved in Earth's affairs, but acts as the ultimate arbiter. From his seat of power on Nibiru, Anu directed his sons to carry out their mission. 1. Enki, the god of wisdom and waters, was tasked with exploring Earth and establishing operations. 2. Enlil, the god of air and command, was given authority over the Earth mission, ensuring order and efficiency. This division of roles sowed the seeds of rivalry between the brothers, creating the dynamic tension central to their interactions with humanity. Earth's resources. The quest for gold. The Anunnaki came to Earth with a specific purpose: to mine gold. According to alternative interpretations of ancient texts, gold was not merely a symbol of wealth, but a critical resource for technological purposes, particularly for repairing Nibiru's atmosphere. It was theorized that fine particles of gold could be dispersed in the upper atmosphere to reflect solar radiation and stabilize their planet's environment. The Anunnaki's early expeditions began in Africa, particularly in regions rich in gold deposits. Archaeological findings in areas like South Africa have uncovered ancient mining operations that predate known human activity, sparking speculation that these sites were part of the Anunnaki's operations. Enki, the scientist and creator. Enki, also known as Ea, emerges as a complex figure, both a scientist and a humanitarian. When the Anunnaki workers, known as the Igigi, rebelled against the grueling labor of gold mining, Enki devised a radical solution: the creation of a new species. Using advanced genetic engineering, he combined the DNA of the Anunnaki with that of early hominids already present on Earth. The result was Homo sapiens, a hybrid species designed to serve as laborers. Early humans, according to these myths, were not just accidents of evolution, but deliberate creations tailored for a purpose. This act of creation placed Enki in the role of a benevolent father figure, but it also sparked conflicts with his brother Enlil. The enforcer of order. Enlil's role was to oversee Earth's operations and ensure that Anunnaki's objectives were met. Unlike Enki, Enlil viewed humanity with suspicion, seeing them as a potential threat rather than allies. His approach was strict and authoritarian, often clashing with Enki's more compassionate perspective. This dynamic is reflected in several Sumerian stories, such as the Deluge myth, where Enlil decides to wipe out humanity through a great flood due to their growing numbers and perceived disobedience. Enki, however, secretly aids humanity by warning Ziusudra, the Sumerian Noah, to build an ark, preserving human life. The Trinity and cosmic balance Anu, Enki, and Enlil together represent a cosmic balance. Anu symbolizes the overarching order and neutrality of the universe. Enki embodies wisdom, creation, and progress. Enlil represents law, discipline, and authority. Their roles mirror the interplay between chaos and order, progress and tradition. This trinity is a recurring motif in spiritual traditions, suggesting that their story has been woven into the fabric of later religions and myths. Was Nibiru a myth or a memory? The question of Nibiru's existence remains controversial. Mainstream science has yet to confirm a planetary body matching its description, but the idea of a planet X lurking at the edges of our solar system is not dismissed outright. The Sumerians' detailed astronomical knowledge, including accurate descriptions of planets unseen to the naked eye, raises questions about how such ancient civilizations acquired this information. If Nibiru exists, its periodic return could explain certain cataclysms in Earth's history, such as shifts in climate, mass extinctions, or even societal resets. This cyclical connection reinforces the idea that Anunnaki's interventions were timed with these planetary alignments. The Great Divide, Mars and Earth. Mars enters the story as a potential intermediary world. Some interpretations suggest that the Anunnaki used Mars as a staging ground or base during their Earth missions. Ancient structures photographed on Mars, such as the infamous Face on Mars, or pyramid-like formations, fuel speculation that this planet once hosted advanced activity. Mars may also hold clues to the Anunnaki's broader operations, hinting at a network of civilizations spanning multiple planets. If Nibiru's orbit intersects both Mars and Earth, this could explain the strategic significance of both worlds in their plans. Part 2. The reset of humanity. Humanity's history is marked by sudden leaps in development and mysterious resets that have puzzled researchers for decades. Evidence suggests that our species is far older and more advanced than traditional archaeology admits. Around 12,000 years ago, during the Younger Dryas period, a catastrophic event occurred that wiped out much of the world's population and reset human progress. The Anunnaki appear in ancient records at this crucial juncture, stepping in to rebuild what was lost. The cataclysm that reset civilization, the Younger Dryas, a sudden and dramatic cooling period, is often linked to a global catastrophe. Theories include a massive comet impact, volcanic activity, or rapid polar shifts. Whatever the cause, the aftermath included massive floods linked to global ice melt, fires that scorched vast regions, the destruction of advanced human settlements. These events are echoed in myths worldwide, from the Sumerian Deluge myth to the biblical Great Flood. The similarity across cultures suggests a shared memory of a real event. For instance, the Sumerian story of Ziusudra, who builds a massive ark at Enki's instruction to survive the flood, directly parallels the biblical story of Noah. In this context, the Anunnaki are portrayed as both destroyers, Enlil, and saviors, Enki, shaping humanity's survival and future. The Great Sphinx of Egypt, a testament to the cataclysm. The Great Sphinx of Giza plays a key role in this narrative. Geological studies, particularly those by Dr. Robert Schoch, suggest that the Sphinx shows significant water erosion, indicating it predates the desert environment of ancient Egypt. This implies a construction date of at least 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, aligning it with the aftermath of the Younger Dryas. Astronomical alignments. The Sphinx faces due east, and its alignment with the constellation Leo during the spring equinox around 10,500 BCE supports the idea that it was built in an age of advanced knowledge. The symbolism of the Sphinx. The lion's body and human head symbolize a blend of earthly and divine characteristics, echoing Anunnaki's role as humanity's genetic creator. The Sphinx could have been built by survivors of the catastrophe, guided by the Anunnaki, as a marker of their intervention and a message for future generations. Summer, the cradle of rebirth. After the floodwaters receded, the Sumerians emerged as the first advanced civilization in recorded history. However, their sudden appearance, and with advanced knowledge of writing, astronomy, agriculture, and governance, raises questions. How did they develop so rapidly? Ancient texts attribute their knowledge to the Anunnaki, who returned after the flood to re-establish civilization. The Sumerian king lists, for example, record rulers with impossibly long reigns before and after the flood, suggesting a transition from direct Anunnaki rule to human kingship under their guidance. Chaunsis, a clue to humanity's past. The inclusion of Mars in the Anunnaki story provides a tantalizing layer of mystery. NASA imagery has captured structures on Mars that resemble pyramids, suggesting the possibility of ancient civilizations. The face on Mars in the Cydonia region resembles a human-like visage, potentially a marker left by an advanced species. Pyramids on Mars. Their alignment mirrors structures on Earth, such as the pyramids of Giza, hinting at a shared architectural blueprint and cosmic connection. Mars may have been a former base or colony of the Anunnaki, abandoned after a planetary cataclysm. If humanity was seeded on Earth as part of a broader interplanetary experiment, Mars could hold vital clues to our origins, evidence of advanced pre-cataclysmic civilizations. The remnants of advanced human activity before the reset are scattered across the globe, providing a glimpse into what might have been. Göbekli Tepe, a site in modern Turkey dated to around 12,000 years ago, predates agriculture and writing, yet displays advanced engineering and astronomical knowledge. Its sudden burial suggests it was deliberately preserved for future generations. Underwater ruins. Sites like Yonaguni off the coast of Japan and Dwarka in India's Gulf of Kambat suggest thriving civilizations that were submerged after rising sea levels. South Africa's ancient mining sites in Africa dating back over 100,000 years may be evidence of the Anunnaki's resource extraction activities. These sites hint at a highly sophisticated global civilization that was either wiped out or significantly diminished by the Younger Dryas event. The Anunnaki's role in humanity's reset. The Anunnaki are portrayed in ancient texts as deeply involved in humanity's recovery after the cataclysm. Enki's compassion. Enki preserved humanity by providing survival knowledge, such as agriculture and construction. Enlil's control. Enlil enforced stricter boundaries on humanity, limiting their access to divine knowledge and seeking to maintain order. Anu's directive. From Nibiru, Anu likely approved this balance between survival and subjugation, ensuring that humanity could rebuild but not challenge Anunnaki's authority. The Great Divide. Myth or memory. The recurring theme of a cataclysmic reset in ancient stories from Atlantis to the Great Flood suggests that humanity's current epoch is only the latest chapter in a much longer saga. The Anunnaki's intervention may have been both pragmatic, ensuring the continuation of their resource extraction, and benevolent, as they preserved and guided human knowledge. A message in the stars. The alignment of ancient structures like the Sphinx and pyramids with celestial bodies reinforces the idea that humanity's history is deeply connected to the stars. These alignments may serve as a cosmic clock marking cycles of destruction and renewal tied to the movements of Nibiru and the Anunnaki's return. Part 3. Humanity's evolution and spiritual awakening. The Anunnaki's interaction with humanity was not simply about domination or exploitation. It was a complex relationship with layers of intention. They shaped humanity physically, intellectually, and spiritually, crafting a dual role for us: servitude and eventual enlightenment. To understand this, we must delve deeper into their motives, the creation of humanity, and the philosophical and spiritual legacy they left behind. The purpose of humanity. Servants or partners? The Sumerian texts, particularly the Atrahasis, describe humanity's creation as a response to the Anunnaki's labor crisis. The Igigi, the lesser gods tasked with the grueling labor of gold mining, rebelled, forcing the Anunnaki leadership to find a solution. Enki's experimentation. Enki, with the help of Nin-Hursag, a geneticist and mother goddess figure, combined Anunnaki's DNA with that of early hominids, creating the first humans. These beings were intelligent enough to perform tasks but lacked the longevity and knowledge of their creators. Early role. Humans initially served as laborers in agriculture, mining, and construction, as evidenced by depictions of early humans offering tributes to the gods in Sumerian art. However, this servitude was not purely exploitative. Over time, the Anunnaki imbued humanity with knowledge and tools for development, suggesting a deeper, more altruistic purpose behind their actions. Brekras versus Enlil. Two paths for humanity. The relationship between Enki and Enlil is critical to understanding humanity's development. Their opposing philosophies created a dual narrative that shaped human destiny. 1. Enki, the Promethean figure. Enki, often portrayed as humanity's benefactor, saw potential in his creation. He provided humans with forbidden knowledge, such as agriculture, irrigation, writing, and medicine. This parallels the story of Prometheus, who gave fire to humanity despite divine prohibition. Enki's rebellion against Enlil's strict rules often put him in direct conflict with his brother. For instance, during the Great Flood, Enki defied Enlil's orders and warned Ziusudra, Noah, ensuring humanity's survival. 2. Enlil, the enforcer of order. Enlil viewed humans as a means to an end, necessary for Anunnaki's operations but inherently flawed and prone to rebellion. He sought to limit human autonomy and keep them in a subservient role. This included controlling population growth and restricting access to divine knowledge. The Great Flood is a key example of Enlil's desire to reset humanity when he believed they had grown too numerous and unruly. Their opposing perspectives reflect a cosmic struggle between progress and control, freedom and order. Humanity, caught in the middle, inherited both its creative potential and its flaws. Humanity's evolution, from laborers to co-creators. While humanity began as servants, the Anunnaki gradually elevated us, providing tools and teachings to help us develop civilization. This transition is evident in several key aspects: agriculture and city building. The Anunnaki taught humans how to cultivate crops and domesticate animals, leading to the rise of city-states like Ur, Eridu, and Babylon. Knowledge and writing. The invention of cuneiform. Writing in Sumer is attributed to divine inspiration, allowing humans to record history, laws, and knowledge. Spiritual teachings. The Anunnaki instilled religious practices that emphasized cosmic order and humanity's connection to the divine. Temples and ziggurats became centers of worship and learning. This gradual elevation suggests that the Anunnaki saw humanity as more than mere tools. They envisioned us as potential partners in a greater cosmic plan. The spiritual legacy. A cosmic blueprint. The Anunnaki's influence extends beyond physical civilization into the spiritual and metaphysical realms. Their story introduces several recurring themes that resonate in later religions. The trinity of Anu, Enki, and Enlil. This triad mirrors the concept of the Holy Trinity in Christianity or the Trimurti in Hinduism. It represents balance, creation, and preservation. The serpent and knowledge. Enki, often associated with water and serpents, symbolizes wisdom and transformation. The serpent's role in the Garden of Eden could be a reimagining of Enki's gift of knowledge to humanity. Flood myths and renewal. The Great Flood is a metaphor for cleansing and renewal, a theme repeated in many traditions as a means to restart and refine human civilization. These parallels suggest that Anunnaki's teachings formed the foundation for spiritual systems that would later evolve independently. The cosmic purpose, humanity's ascension. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Anunnaki story is the idea that humanity is destined for something greater. Ancient texts hint at the belief that humans were imbued with divine potential, longevity, and wisdom. Early humans were said to live for hundreds of years, reflecting their partially divine origins. This longevity diminished over generations, perhaps as a way to limit their power. Ascension to the stars. The Anunnaki's obsession with celestial knowledge, seen in their alignment of structures with stars, may point to humanity's eventual role as a star-faring species. A test of readiness. Humanity's history of struggle, innovation, and spiritual growth could be seen as preparation for rejoining a cosmic community. Mars and the interplanetary connection. Mars offers further clues to this cosmic purpose. If the Anunnaki once inhabited or used Mars as a staging ground, it suggests that humanity's destiny might involve reclaiming this ancient connection. Terraforming and colonization. Mars's barren state today might reflect the aftermath of an Anunnaki cataclysm, but its restoration could be humanity's responsibility. Cosmic knowledge. Structures on Mars, if verified, could hold the keys to understanding our role in the Anunnaki's broader plans. The question of free will. The Anunnaki story raises a profound question. Were we created to serve? Or were we given the tools to transcend and become equals? Enki's teachings suggest that humanity was always meant to evolve and reach for the stars. Enlil's control reminds us that freedom requires responsibility and discipline. This duality lies at the heart of human existence, our struggle to balance our divine potential with the limitations of our material nature. Part 4. The Anunnaki's influence on modern religion and humanity's future. As humanity advanced, the legacy of the Anunnaki transformed into myth, religion, and philosophy. Over time, the gods of Sumer became archetypes that echoed through subsequent civilizations, shaping the major world religions we recognize today. Understanding these connections provides deeper insight into how Anunnaki's story links humanity's past to its future, particularly as we enter a new star age of discovery and spiritual awakening. From gods to myths, the Anunnaki's transformation. The Anunnaki's direct presence in early civilizations gradually faded, but their influence persisted. Over millennia, their deeds, roles, and relationships were woven into the mythologies of various cultures. 1. Sumer to Babylon and beyond. In Babylon, the Anunnaki's roles were subsumed by the pantheon of Marduk, a god who replaced Enlil and Enki in prominence. Marduk's rise represents a shift in humanity's understanding of divine hierarchies. In Egypt, the triad of Osiris, Isis, and Horus echoes the dynamics of Anu, Enki, and Enlil, representing creation, wisdom, and kingship. 2. Biblical parallels. The Genesis account of creation mirrors the Sumerian story of humanity's origin. The divine council in Genesis, where God said, "Let us make man in our image," suggests a plurality of beings akin to the Anunnaki. The story of the Nephilim, described as the offspring of divine beings and humans, resembles the hybridization narratives in Sumerian myths. 3. Hindu connections. The Trimurti of Brahma, creation, Vishnu, preservation, and Shiva, destruction, parallel the roles of Anu, Enki, and Enlil. The ancient Sanskrit texts describe flying craft, vimanas, and advanced technologies, possibly hinting at a shared legacy with the Anunnaki. 4th, Greek and Roman myths. Prometheus, who defied Zeus to give humanity fire, knowledge, reflects Enki's rebellion to uplift humanity. The Titans and Olympians, representing a generational struggle, echo Anunnaki's internal conflicts over the fate of humanity. These parallels reveal how Anunnaki's story became a universal blueprint for understanding divine-human relationships and cosmic order. The Great Sphinx, Mars, and the Star Age 1. The Great Sphinx as a time lock. The Sphinx serves as both a literal and symbolic marker of the Anunnaki's legacy. Its alignment with the stars points to a timeline of cosmic significance. Researchers like Robert Bauval and Graham Hancock suggest that the Sphinx's astronomical alignments with the constellation Leo during 10,500 BCE may represent the dawn of a previous golden age, initiated or guided by the Anunnaki. Second, Mars as humanity's next step. Mars may hold evidence of humanity's pre-reset civilizations or the Anunnaki's interplanetary operations. If structures like the face on Mars or pyramids in the Cydonia region are authentic, they could serve as breadcrumbs left by our cosmic ancestors. As humanity begins exploring and colonizing Mars, we may uncover artifacts or knowledge that redefines our understanding of the past and our place in the universe. 3. The Star Age, a cosmic reconnection. The Star Age refers to humanity's reconnection with the cosmos, marked by advancements in space exploration and a growing spiritual awakening. Ancient texts suggest that humanity was destined to return to the stars, a prophecy that resonates as we stand on the brink of becoming a multi-planetary species. The Cabal, hidden knowledge, and humanity's awakening. 1. The suppression of knowledge. Throughout history, powerful groups, often referred to as the Cabal, have worked to suppress ancient knowledge, ensuring humanity remains disconnected from its true origins and potential. The Anunnaki's teachings, including advanced technologies and spiritual practices, were likely hidden or destroyed to maintain control. 2. The fall of the Cabal. In modern times, there are signs that this suppression is crumbling. Leaks of hidden texts, ancient artifacts, and UFO disclosures suggest that humanity is on the verge of rediscovering its cosmic heritage. The Cabal's fall is often linked to global shifts in consciousness, political upheavals, and the democratization of information through technology. 3. Unlocking the mysteries. As humanity gains access to suppressed knowledge, ancient structures like the Great Sphinx, the pyramids, and even Mars could provide the keys to unlocking the mysteries of the Anunnaki. This process will likely involve the integration of science, spirituality, and mythology, creating a unified understanding of our origins and destiny. The Anunnaki's return and humanity's destiny 1. The prophecy of the return. Ancient Sumerian texts hint at the Anunnaki's eventual return, often tied to the periodic orbit of Nibiru. Some interpret this as a physical return, while others see it as a metaphor for humanity's awakening to its divine potential. 2. The evolution of humanity. Humanity's journey mirrors the Anunnaki's story of conflict, growth, and unity. By embracing both our material and spiritual natures, we fulfill the dual legacy left by Enki and Enlil. The Star Age represents not only technological advancement, but also a shift in consciousness, enabling humanity to become active participants in the cosmic order. 3. From servants to co-creators. If Anunnaki's ultimate purpose was to guide humanity toward becoming co-creators in the universe, the next phase of our evolution involves reclaiming our divine heritage. This includes mastering advanced technologies, exploring other planets, and embracing spiritual teachings that transcend dogma and division. The Anunnaki's legacy is not just a story of gods and mortals, it is our story. It is a reminder that humanity's potential is limitless, and that our past is the key to our future. As we stand on the threshold of the Star Age, the question is no longer whether we will uncover the truth, but whether we are ready to embrace it. Will humanity rise to the challenge, reclaiming its cosmic heritage and forging a new destiny among the stars? The answer lies within us, written in the same divine code gifted to us by the Anunnaki.